Hi everybody, and welcome to another Friday's tutorial. And in this tutorial I want to talk to you about drawing with charcoal, but you can do this drawing with graphite, of course. But I specifically want to talk to you about drawing hills, sloping areas, and that was question number 1. I did the road, of course, which is very flat indeed, and instantly I got the question what to do once your landscape is sloping. Not specifically mountains, high mountains, but the sloping hills that are maybe below the mountains. So excellent question. And what I do here is first I prepare my white sheet with a pastel bar, that's all. And then I take a dry and clean brush and rub in all the pigments. So in that way my sheet is not that white anymore. And I can create a soft feel, extra soft feel. And what I also do is I put out the outside, so the area in which I'm going to draw, and get that effect of soft feel and sloping hills. Now, of course, on my Patreon page, I draw everything in live, and I do a little bit more extra explaining about the composition of this particular landscape. And I do this live. And here on the YouTube, I still have a very quite detailed explanation of the complete setup, and I'm using a charcoal pencil for this. And here you can see the little heap that is kind of carved out of the first slope, actually the second line of the sloping. And as you can see, it is not straight at all, it is rounded. And the road that is coming over that sloping hill is kind of going downwards, and then here in the front it is going upwards again. So you have to take notice of that. And in the left corner, of course, you can see my reference picture. I got that from Pixabay. So that's very handy indeed, and that is I use it as an inspiration to get to this landscape. Now, in fact, I'm actually drawing as if I was there, and I was doing a quick sketch. So that is why my choice of drawing material is charcoal, because it draws fast and it gives that nice soft feel that I want to create in doing this landscape. Now, what is also in this picture, of course, is that tree on the left. But in this stage I only draw out the contour, because the actual tree will only be drawn in at the last stage of this sketch. And what I also want to point out to you is the lines that are in the landscape. You can see it in the reference picture. Here you can see some poles, but also the lines that are created by the humans in the landscape. Here I see an extra line and then the lines that are going up. And here are some grasses that you can divide. And then here I see also a darker area, and here the lines are going quite straight to the right. Then here is some shadow just next to that bush with the white blossom. And then the lines go downward. So I actually draw out the lines that are laid over the landscape, and in that way it also creates the impression and the effect of slope. So the lines made by the humans, and here even that little shadow that is curving over the land, is drawn in. And then here is a shadow underneath that tree, of course, that I make use of. And then I take my kneaded eraser. With the kneaded eraser I get rid of the pigments of the part of the sky, and by doing that I instantly also create the very vague mountains that are in the back. Now the mountains that are in the back are actually much higher than the slope we are drawing in the front. And this is my pencil eraser. It's by Kohinoor, and I use it to draw out a little bit of light in between the cluster of trees that are on the line of the slope that we are actually drawing. And this is the mountain which is much higher, and this mountain contains pine tree, maybe some conifers, but also deciduous trees. Then I take a natural charcoal. Now natural charcoal is very, very soft indeed, much softer than the charcoal pencil, which is more compressed and in that way somewhat harder and somewhat darker. But for the blurry effect I use the natural charcoal, because I can stir that around and it gives that nice and soft feel of trees that are way in the back. Of course I also use it for the shadowy parts. For instance here on that area underneath the left tree, and later on I will use it in the tree itself too. Then I take my kneaded eraser again and I draw out some dots, and then I go in even harder with the pencil eraser to get rid of the first pigment of the pastel. In that way I am creating the light that hits the trees on the hill that is way in the back. Here, all the way above, there is the sky, so I make sure that it is all white. The edge of the hill that we are actually drawing is quite hit by the sun. So I draw out that outer line of that first sloping hill with my pencil eraser again. And I also use that eraser to draw out some of the branches that are in the tree of the cluster. And also, of course, in the ground itself. Pencil eraser and kneaded eraser will help me to create the impression of trees on hills on the far distance. And this drawing is divided into 3 areas: the background, the mid area, which is our sloping hill, and then, of course, the front. But as I was saying, first I want the background to be okay. I need it to stay blurry. Then here I come to the mid area, and the mid area can use a little bit more detail. It is a nice way of drawing. It's quite quick. And what I also do is I keep notice of the lines in the ground itself. By drawing out the lines that are created by man on the land, I actually emphasize the slopiness of our area. Then it's time for, before we do the tree on the left, it's first time to draw out the front area. Now the front area is nothing more than a piece of grassland. So I just twirl around the pencil eraser and then get back in with the natural charcoal, and in that way I create some kind of grassy land. Then the tree itself, the tree that is really in front, what you do not want to do is to draw in every little twig. Now maybe this can be helpful to you. What I actually draw is the skeleton of the tree itself, and there's a little tree just behind it, but I draw in the main skeleton of that tree, and the tree is not yet covered in leaves, but it does have clusters of branches, and I simply draw those out. Then I take the natural charcoal again, and I simply give it a tone. Then I pick up my kneaded eraser and I go crisscross through that natural charcoal. Then I take the pencil eraser and I draw out a little bit of the light which is in between the main branches. And then I go crisscross again through the natural charcoal. So in that way I'm trying to create a bare tree without having to draw in every single little branch, because I want this drawing to stay vivid, quick, and not forged. So to keep that loose feel, I simply try to draw as loose as possible. Here in the back, the cluster of trees need a little bit more branches too, so I simply get in there with the pencil eraser. Now this is a very, very impressionistic way of drawing, but it is nice and fast, and it would be excellent, for instance, if you were on a holiday, to make quick sketches and quick impressions of what you're seeing. And well, as we are artists, we can always add a little things in, or maybe you want to experiment a little bit. Then it is no problem at all to add some detail that are not actually there. Here for the tree, I simply draw in a little bit more darkness, for instance. As long as I get the message across of what I am trying to tell here, and that's simply I want to create nice slopes. So your drawing doesn't have to be all that beautiful, and just see it as a practice. So here I'm doing something that is not in my reference picture at all, but I want to create a little bit more extra perspective. So I'm simply imagining some poles that are on the side of the road, and by drawing in that right pole a little bit higher than the actual line of that sloping hill with a cluster of trees, I create extra dimension and I create extra perspective to make my landscape appear even more sloping. So that's just experimenting, but that is just okay, because that's what artists can do. So, well, I will leave it up to you now, and I really, really hope you will give this way of drawing, or even this drawing, a try. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up, and of course I hope to see you again in my next tutorial, or maybe I will see you on my Patreon page. Take care, and I will see you again next week.